did just want to say one thing briefly about the passing of Al Trautwig. I was very sad to hear about the passing of Al. Never had the fortune to meet him, but growing up as a Yankee fan, a Ranger fan, and a Knicks fan in the 1990s, I mean, Al was prominent in my summers in particular. Just one of the great voices, always respected Al, always, loved, him being on the broadcast was felt like a big deal when he would call the games a little bit with the Yankees. And then obviously pre and post to some of the bigger games, the Knicks and Rangers at that time, that in 94. Obviously did a lot with the Olympics, did a lot Tour de France, not so familiar with all that, but obviously MSG in the 90s was where I lived. And so Al Trautwig was always someone I respected and wish I'd have got to meet him. And then I was even more excited to know that we actually come from the same hometown. He's a Franklin Square guy, the most famous alum from my high school, H. Frank Carey High School. I put out a tweet. I didn't want to, mention that. I always feel like whenever people put out, rest in peace tweets and they make them about themselves too much, it's always awkward, so I didn't want to put that out there. But yeah, Al went to the same high school I did. I knew about that. When I was going there, my baseball coach was around that long. He retired the next year after me, but he was around that long to be there when Al went to school there. And then, obviously I just watched Cool Runnings with my son. I talked about it. He was making a bobsled for his science project. His science project had to be Olympic themed. And him and his buddies came up with the idea to make bobsleds and a track. So I was making bobsleds with them. And just sitting around one day with nothing to do, I was like, let's watch Cool Runnings, a movie about bobsled. The Jamaican bobsled team with my guy John Candy in it. So we watched Cool Runnings. And of course, the Olympic broadcaster in that movie is Al. And so I literally paused it and I said, this is Al Trautwig. And I gave my kids a 10-minute lecture on Al Trautwig and how great he was. And he went to my high school and, I grew up listening to him. He did Yankee games. He did pre and post for Knicks and Rangers. When I was a kid, when I was your age, this was the guy before every big game. So now my sons know who Al Trautwig is, but very sad to hear about the passing of Al. I know, as far as I know, he hasn't worked in a while. I believe he was having some poor health for a while. So rest in peace. My thoughts and prayers to his friends and family. Very sad to hear. Loved Al Trautwig. I wish I would have got a chance to meet him. One of the guys I really wish I would have had a chance to meet and talk to, especially because we're both from Franklin Square. I knew I wasn't born and raised in Franklin Square. I moved there when I was 8, but it's enough. Went to high school there, went to elementary school there. Feel like a Franklin Square kid. So that was always, Al Trautwig was the guy. Al Trautwig was my guy. I also saw a story that in the movie Meet the Parents, the famous pool scene, the volleyball pool scene, it takes place in Al Trautwig's house. That's Al Trautwig's pool. Do you think you could spike it? Yeah, it'd have to be pretty high. Bet you would, Panama Red. That happened in Al Trautwig's house and Al Trautwig's pool. How crazy is that? That's one of the stories that is circling on Twitter. And Steve Valiquette of MSG has, confirmed it. And he says he has a great story about how the cast and crew overstayed their welcome. They were there forever. And Al used to tell people that Robert De Niro didn't shake his hand. So Steve Valiquette has, I just saw that he confirmed that story. That's amazing. But yeah, in Cool Runnings, he's terrific. He rents out his pool for another classic comedy. Al Trautwig.
Think about how excited we know avid Knicks fan Ben Stiller must have been to meet Al Trautwig.
Right. Definitely. That must maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's the genesis of it. But yeah, Al Trautwig was my guy. And if you're a Yankee, Ranger, Knicks fan, and almost everyone in the city's a Knicks fan, especially back then. And the Rangers were pretty damn exciting back then too. So most of us, if you grew up in the 90s, if you're my age, if you're somewhere between 38 and maybe even 35, but really 38 to 45 and maybe even older than that. But if you're 38 or older and you grew up in the 90s, Al Trautwig was the voice of I remember loving those. I loved Wade Boggs and I loved Pat Kelly, and he was the MSG had the Knicks, had the Yankees back then, and then obviously before every big Knick game and every big Ranger playoff game, there was Al. So very sad to hear that news. Plus a great Cary alum. Seahawks. Let's go Seahawks.